The courtroom was silent. The case was basically over. Then a woman who wasn't even scheduled to speak stood up. Before anyone spoke, there was a pause. Not the kind you notice at first, the kind that settles into your chest. Mariel could hear the clock on the wall. Tick, tick, tick. Each second felt heavier than the last. Her palms were damp. Her throat burned. She told herself to stay seated, to survive like she always had, because that's what she was good at, surviving quietly. But something inside her whispered, "If you don't stand now, you'll carry this forever." She looked at the floor, then at the judge, then at the man she had spent years being afraid of, and finally, she stood. Not loudly, not confidently, but deliberately. The judge was already flipping through the case file. The attorneys were preparing to move on. The courtroom felt settled. This trial was supposed to be routine, quick, predictable. Then she stood up. Her hands were shaking. Her voice almost didn't come out. But when it did, everything stopped. The judge looked up. The lawyers froze. And for the first time that day, the courtroom went completely silent. Her name was Mariel. She wasn't powerful. She wasn't wealthy. She wasn't connected. For years, she had been known as quiet. The woman who kept to herself. The woman who smiled politely and said, "I'm fine." But behind closed doors, her life was anything but fine. Her husband controlled everything. The money, the phone. Who did she talk to? Where she went? He never had to raise his voice in public. He saved that for home. He reminded her often, "No one would believe you. You're too sensitive. You'd ruin everything." And slowly, she began to believe him. So she stayed silent, year after year, until the night everything finally broke. That night started like so many others. An argument over nothing, a tone that turned sharp, a door slammed too hard. But this time, the neighbors heard more than shouting. They heard fear. Someone called the authorities. Statements were taken. Reports were filed. And suddenly, Mariel found herself sitting in a courtroom she never planned to enter. She wasn't there to speak. Not officially. The case was moving forward without her testimony. Lawyers discussing timelines. Documents being referenced. She told herself she just needed to get through it. Sit quietly. Disappear again. That was the plan. Until the judge asked one simple question. "Is there anything else before we proceed?" Silence. The lawyers looked down at their notes. The courtroom waited. And then, I need to say something." Her voice barely carried across the room. Every head turned. The judge raised his hand. "Ma'am," he said carefully, "you are not scheduled to testify." She swallowed hard. "I know," she said, "but if I don't speak now, I never will." The judge studied her for a long moment. Then he closed the file. "Go ahead," he said. "The court is listening." She stood there trembling, not because she didn't know what to say, but because she had spent years being told she wasn't allowed to say it. She didn't start with the worst moments. She started with the small ones, the isolation, the control, the fear of doing the wrong thing. As she spoke, memories interrupted her words. The way he'd stand in doorways, not touching her, just blocking the exit. The apologies afterwards, soft, convincing, almost believable. The nights she practiced telling someone, in the shower, in the mirror, in her car, and every time she stopped herself. "You're exaggerating. It's not that bad. You'll make it worse." Standing there now, she realized something painful. Silence hadn't protected her. It had protected him. Her voice steadied.
She described the threats, the manipulation, the nights she slept fully dressed in case she needed to run. The courtroom changed. People stopped shifting in their seats. Pens stopped moving. Even the attorneys stopped interrupting. Then she reached into her bag. I didn't know if this would ever matter, but I kept it anyway. She handed over a small flash drive. Recordings, messages, proof, evidence she had been collecting quietly for years. The judge had seen cases like this before. Too many. People who minimized, people who denied, people who smiled while telling half-truths. At first, he assumed this would be the same, but then he watched her hands, the way they shook, the way she braced herself before each sentence. This wasn't performance. This was released. When the recording played, the judge didn't just hear a voice. He heard a pattern, control, fear hidden behind calm words. And suddenly, the law stopped being abstract. It became human. The judge listened to one recording, just one. The tone in the room shifted instantly. Her husband, calm, even smug, stared straight ahead, his jaw tightening. The judge stopped the playback. Then he did something no one expected. He stood. This court will not proceed as planned. Gasps rippled through the room. He looked directly at Mariel. "Thank you for your courage," he said. "This changes everything." The judge spoke slowly, deliberately. Emergency protective measures were issued. Custody arrangements were revised. A full investigation was ordered, effective immediately. Her husband tried to speak. The judge raised his hand. "You've had years to speak. Now it's her turn." The gavel came down. Not softly, decisively. Mariel didn't cry right away. She just stood there, breathing. Weeks passed. Paperwork, meetings, quiet nights that felt unfamiliar. Freedom wasn't loud. It came in small moments. Choosing what to eat, sleeping without listening for footsteps, leaving her phone face up. Some nights the fear returned. Trauma doesn't disappear because justice happens once. But now, when doubt crept in, she had proof. She wasn't weak. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't lying. She was believed. And slowly, that belief became hers too. If you're listening to this and wondering, would anyone believe me? Let this be your answer. Silence protects patterns. Truth disrupts them. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up, even when your voice shakes.